Thank you to Nicole and to our music ministry for that beautiful song. And I hadn't caught that last line before, if we can. And to me, it's really important to recognize in this very moment that we can, right? If we choose, maybe is the bigger question, right? Because we have everything within us to make that difference. It's really a question of how we are going to make the choices in our lives and through that in the life of humanity. And most especially today, I really want us to think about that, right? Like, what are the choices that we are making? How are we making the choices in our lives that can contribute to a greater sense of peace or maybe a greater sense of disharmony? A greater sense of connection or a greater sense of war. Because the reality is that, at least I believe, and in unity we would say, that everything that is happening outside of us is really a projection of what is taking place within us. And so part of the choice that we have is to do the healing work within, so that as we move out into the world, we can be that healing agent. Another thing that I'm very conscientious of today, and it's part of what I wanted to talk to you about, is really being able to open ourselves to a different mindset of how we are to experience life, right? Because so many times, we talk about like the choice in the moment, like the moment choice. But we also have the choice to create a mindset, create a way of being for us so that it no longer necessarily feels like it's just a moment to moment to moment choice, but just a choice that we've taken on to have a different mindset about how we want to view the world, how we want to experience ourselves, how we want to show up, and then allow that mindset to be what moves us, what shows us the path. Now, I don't know about you, but part of my mindset is survival mode, right? And there's different ways in which that shows up. Survival when it comes to money, right? And maybe hoarding some money because who knows what I'll have tomorrow, right? Like there's a fear in that. Part of it is also just that sense that there are things outside of our control that can harm us, and how that shows up, right, in our lives as fear. I realize that I'm a part of the conditioning of my son, right? For those of you who have kids, if we think about how I at least have been trying to balance raising my 9-year-old son in knowing that there is protection in God, that there is a sense of peace and abundance and prosperity. And be mindful, don't go that way, right? Be mindful who you hang out with, right? Like there's all these different things that I have to, as a parent, balance. But the reality is that once again, it's a projection of the questions that are happening within me, right? Like the fears that are going on within me and this desire for me to find a sense of balance so that it's not that it's fear that is dictating how I show up in the world, but wisdom. And the wisdom can bring us to the same type of actions and activity, but with a different consciousness, with a different feeling, with a different sense of where it comes from. And I love that in unity, we are invited to push through the status quo. Like if you're like me, one of the things that you love about unity is that you do get to question the ways that the status quo says that we should behave out in the world, or the status quo says that of the things that we should be fearful out in the world and in our own lives. How many of you are happy that you get to check yourself and question the status quo? It's part of our evolution, right? And we found a place that invites us into that. And the question is, how do we take that on? And how do we make that opportunity to question the status quo lead us into a different kind of mindset? You see, finding the gift in every moment, which is what we're talking about today, it does take a shift, right? It does take a shift because, this moment, I'm finding the gift in this moment of being connected with you, right? But just a few moments ago, There was the experience of a little trepidation, right? A little anxiety that I was just having, right? And so it's just a part of who I am. One of the things that I believe that we can do is just recognize that that may be part of our status quo, that may be part of our conditioning. It happens not only in the conditioning from society that we take on, whether it's through our parents or through other loved ones, but it's actually part of our DNA. And it's really important for us to recognize that so that we can not necessarily succumb to it, but give ourselves some compassion, love ourselves through it. The reality is that this idea of survival and the fears that show up so that we know which places to go, which places not to go, can have a positive effect, right, of how we are in the world. And when we become enslaved to it, right, and when it becomes our mindset of fear, then we can get into the difficulties and the challenges of recognizing not only the blessing that is every moment, but really the way in which God is present in those moments. Because I don't know about you, but the moments that I am in fear, what happens to you? Like I close up. Do any of you close up? Right? When you're in fear, when you're in anxiety, do you close up? It's just like this feeling, right? That you can sense in your body. And the moment that we actually step into trust and faith, how many of you have experienced trust and faith before? How does it feel? An openness, right? And so how can we have the mindset that allows us to be open moment by moment? That reptilian brain that we have in many ways was a gift to us, and we've evolved from it somewhat, right? Like the reptilian brain went into the limbic brain, right? Like the neocortex. I mean, I'm getting all sciencey on you here. But, it's part of the evolution of who we are as a human species. But the question is, how do we want to continue to evolve? And part of the evolution may be to no longer succumb to the old ways of being, the old patterns, and start to create new ways of being, new mindsets. And so the question becomes, how can we do that? How can we have that mindset of positivity in a world that has a lot of negativity in it, right? Like, that's been part of my experience this week. Like, how do I balance knowing what's happening in the world without allowing it to really instill the closeness? Right? Like instill like this fear or anxiety that separates me rather than connects me. And so I was really sitting with this and this idea of how can I be positive in a world that sometimes even looks at positivity as not seeing what is really happening in the world. How many of you have gone that before? Right? Like, if you're positive, it's not positive, it's toxic positivity. And there is a part of that, right? And we have to be mindful of it, but we can also find the balance within it. And in Mark chapter 7, verse 7, Jesus, our way shower, actually says, "Ask and it will be given to you, search and you will find, knock and the door will be opened for you." A lot of times I feel like we talk about this from the sense of prayer, right? Like what you ask for in prayer. But there is a gem right there in the middle. Search and you will find. What are we searching for? Ask yourself as you're looking out into the news, as you're looking out into conversations that you're having with other people, what's going on in humanity, what is even going on in your life and within you. What are you searching for? Are you searching for all of the ways in which you should be fearful, you should have anxiety, how things are not going to go well, how things are going wrong? Or are you searching for that little bit of light or that great sense of light that says it's going to be okay? That tells you that God's presence is here in this very moment. What are we searching for? And shifting into that question is a change in mindset and is an opportunity for us to be more open and expanded in the way that we can experience ourselves and each other. What are we seeking? Because we will find it. If we're looking for the things that aren't working well in the world or in our lives, you're going to find it. You're going to find many ways to check that off. But if you are also looking for what is taking place as a great emerging, as a great sense of trust and hope and faith and unity, everything that we know God to be, you will find that also. And how many times in the midst of being in that reptilian brain of ours and the fear and the anxiety, do we get a moment to just step back and ask ourselves, wait, how is God present? How is there trust and hope in this moment? And so how can we make that choice a little easier for ourselves? Because that's what it's all about, right? Like trying to make that choice of seeing through the eyes of God, experiencing God in our lives a little easier as we move through it. What we're experiencing or seeing in Ukraine, it's war, right? It is fear showing up. It is a false sense of ego showing up in the world, and we can experience it in that way. And actually, there's some power in just knowing what is showing up. And when we're looking at the news, are we thinking, well, how is God present? How is love showing up? Look at the way in which humanity, many in humanity, are coming together in unity to support the people of Ukraine. How many of us have been able to experience that or see that rather than just stay in the fear of war and what it means, or even in just focusing on the casualties that will take place? And I'm not talking about people and death and that sort of thing, but all the sense of casualties, like everything that is happening in this moment. One of the things that I really know for myself, though, is that it isn't about feeling blessed or feeling gifted as a result of seeing the other side. Because it's not about being blessed in the moment and realizing that this moment is a gift, because there are people that may not have that gift. The gift of freedom, because there are people that may not have the gift of freedom. The gift of love, because people may not be experiencing love. In many ways, that comparison really only allows us to live in a world of comparison. And if we are only thinking of ourselves as blessed as a result of other people not being as blessed, we can fall into not thinking that we're blessed because other people are more blessed than us. And so it's a matter of moving out of that sense of comparison and really allowing ourselves to live in our oneness, that we are all connected, that what is taking place is not only a gift in the moment for me because of who I am, but because of what is emerging through me. And so being that positive mindset is what allows us to do that. Marianne Williamson says that while the power of negativity is clear to most everyone, the power of vigorous positivity receives short shrift in comparison. Positivity is more than the absence of the negative. It is the presence through thought, word, and action of the positive. In other words, simply not being negative is not enough. If we're interested in creating miracles, in invoking the most powerful creative manifestation, we must be proactively positive. As my friend Ken Daigle actually says, we have to choose whether we want to be the Tigger or the Eeyore. Remember from, what is that bear? Winnie the Pooh? Are we going to be the Tigger that has that positive outlook and that joy about life, or the Eeyore that is looking for the way that things are going wrong? I've come to realize that I can be of this world and know the challenges that are happening in my life and the huge challenges that are happening in the life of humanity, and still be an optimist, still be positive about it. Actually, I found out that there's a term for it, apocalyptimist. Apocalyptimist. Somebody that recognizes that there are big challenges happening in the world, but also is positive about the fact that we can rise above them. So you can hold both. You don't have to be the toxic positivity, but you also don't have to be stuck in the fear and in the sadness and in the grief that is taking place. I love that actually as a community we're having some of that opportunity ourselves. As many of you have shared, there is grief and sadness, as you found out last week, that Reverend Chris is going to be retiring at the end of October. And many of you have made the choice of looking at the positive in that situation for Chris. Right? Many of you have shared, well, I'm really happy that he gets to be with his family. So you've already made the choice of trying to see the positive. I would invite you to not only see the positive for him, but asking yourself, well, what is the positive for me in this situation, in this experience? As I hold the grief in me, what are the positives that can come out? Maybe like living into the teachings that Reverend Chris has taught us over these years, maybe being more clear about the love that we have for him, right? There is an opportunity for us to be more open to the ways in which this is a positive experience, not only for Chris, but for all of us. How do we manage that then? If we have that practice here, how do we manage that in the world? The Dalai Lama actually says that in order to carry a positive action, we must develop here a positive vision. How can we be positive about the possibility that is in every moment? Native Americans recognize that wherever there is poison, really nearby is usually the antidote to that poison. And I share that with you to think about what are some of the challenges, some of the difficulties that you are yourself experiencing. Never mind even the world, right, is experiencing, but what are some of the challenges? What are some of the poisons, the fears, the anxieties that are showing up for you in what areas of your life? And can you recognize that in this very activity, in this very moment, there is the possibility for greater good? And that it's just as at hand, as the Native Americans say, it's just a few feet away usually from the poison is the antidote. So it is at hand to be able to move through this from a sense of being positive, from a sense of knowing that there is a greater good that is taking place. When we talk about heaven on earth here at Unity on the Bay, right, like we talk about it not as this distant place, but heaven on earth as a state of mind. Heaven and earth is how we experience a place, how we experience a situation, and we can change and shift our mindset to be able to do it through the eyes of positivity. Now, I realize that that is sometimes easier said than done. And so how are the ways in which we can actually almost like hack our old ways of being? Like when we move into some fear and move into some anxiety, how can we hack that experience and allow something else to emerge? For me, the two things that we can have is curiosity and gratitude. Curiosity, like what would happen if moment by moment in any experience, you just ask yourself the question, what is the highest good of what is taking place right now? Just be open. You don't even have to answer the question. You just have to ask it. What is the highest good that can show up in this moment? And then just allow something to show up. Be in the search for that highest good. Ask the question again and again and allow yourself to really be steeped in that curiosity. What is the highest good? What is a positive outcome from this moment? The moment you ask that question, what happens? You start looking for the answer. The next thing that I invite you into is just the sense of gratitude. And I know that it is difficult to be in a sense of gratitude in every moment, in every situation. First Theologians says, rejoice always, pray without ceasing, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you. Rejoice always, pray without ceasing, give thanks in all circumstances. It doesn't say give thanks for all circumstances. Like maybe that's too much for us to carry, to be grateful for everything that is taking place in life. And can we still be in gratitude within those situations? Can we find the things to be grateful for in those situations? Thich Nhat Hanh said, the miracle is not to walk on water. The miracle is to walk on the green earth in the present moment to appreciate the peace and the beauty that are available now. See, the life that we are living right now with all its energy, with all its possibilities, that is the greatest miracle of our time. And so how can we acknowledge that? How can we really step into the miracle of life and be in gratitude even for that? Right? Like when we talk about being in gratitude or knowing each moment as a gift, it's because in every single moment there is a possibility for good. Whether we see it or not, whether we move into experiencing it or not, there is the possibility for good. And the more that we remember that, the more that we live into that, the more that we will experience it. The mindset, the outlook of positivity creates the thoughts and the feelings that we may have about the situations that are going on, and that in itself shapes the experience for us. And so it's really about just shifting our mindset. In each circumstance, the potential for good is there, and gratitude and curiosity is what allows us to move into that space so that we can be clearer about what is truly going on. We could be looking out at what's going on in Ukraine and just be exhausted with fear and anxiety and the idea of war in the world, the idea of ego in the world. We could get exhausted by the many ways in which sometimes we are challenged by life. And we can choose differently. We can choose to see it through a different mindset. And through that, recognize that something is emerging within us. Something is emerging within humanity, within the community, and that the possibility for good is there. Curiosity and gratitude gets us to be more open to that possibility. Philippians 4:8 says, "Finally, beloved, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is pleasing, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, and if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. Where our mind goes, so does our experience." Doesn't say you have to be, everything is worthy of praise. It says find what is worthy of praise. If there is just a small smidge of something to be grateful for, of something to be empowered by, of something to be positive of, think of those things as it then opens us up to seeing even more of it. It really is only when we move away from the fears and the anxiety and the old status quo and the old way of relating to the challenges and difficulties that life may bring that we can then see clearly. And as we see clearly, hand in hand, heart to heart, not only can we overcome the challenges that are in our individual lives, but really we can manifest a life that is abundant, a life that not only works for us, but a life that works for all. Hand in hand, heart to heart, we can see the shift as we ourselves shift, and we create the world that works for all. I am positive that we can do it. Namaste.
Thank you, Reverend Juan. Seek and you will find. That was like my favorite part. I love that. You know, we're so inquisitive here at Unity on the Bay, right? We're like the detectives on Dateline. We know who did it. And the wonderful thing is that we get to question everything here at Unity on the Bay. You know, most churches don't allow you to do that. That's such a wonderful, wonderful thing. We're so blessed to have that. And the Tigger and Eeyore reference, Reverend Juan, you know, like that just came right there because I just remember hearing about Reverend Chris's retirement, right? And I went straight into Eeyore. He's abandoning us. What are we going to do? What am I going to do? I hate change. Who moved my cheese? But I've got the Unity principles, right, that get me closer to Tigger, where it's like, where is God in this? You know where God is? Reverend Chris is leaving us in the most wonderful hands of Reverend Juan, right? That's where God is. Right, Miss Angelica? Right? We're good. We are good. Please give it up for Reverend Juan and his incredible message. We believe here at Unity on the Bay in the spiritual law of giving and receiving, and now is your opportunity to give in gratitude. You can go green. You can text 833-245-5645, or we have envelopes for you. Nick is walking around, or raise your hand and we'll hook you up. Hi. We'll hook you up with an envelope. But if you can, go on over to 833-245-5645. The information is on your screen, folks at home and behind me. If you set that up one time, it really does make your life a lot easier. Then it's just like 2 clicks and you're done, all right? So I'm going to give you a few moments in silence to prepare your gift. In that silence, I'm going to start thinking about what I'm going to give up for Lent. My wife wants me to not buy shoes for all those days. That's not going to happen. Okay, we'll hold. You can put your hand or your gift to your heart, and we will bless these gifts together. Divine love that I am blesses all that I give and all that I receive. I want to take a moment to bless the children that are in-house and also on Zoom. Let's get our hands together. Children, we love you. We bless you. We appreciate you. We behold the Christ in you, and we see you doing great things. Love the kids. Remember that we're here to pray with you, pray for you. I'm going to invite the prayer chaplains to come on up. If there's something that came up during service that you want to talk to them about, that's what they're here for. Also, don't forget that after the second service at 12:30, we have the Q&A about Reverend Chris's retirement. If you want to be here in-house or also on Zoom, you are more than invited. I'm going to invite Reverend Juan on up.
And you know, it is such an auspicious day because we get to be in community, we get to be connected, and also, some of you may not realize, it's basically Unity on the Bay's main birthday date because we have actually Angelica Cookson's birthday today, who's part of our music ministry and marketing council. It's also the birthday of Angela Ribeiro and Cindy Binder, who are longtime members, Spirit Group hosts. And a little birdie told me that it is also our amazing music director, Dale Stein's birthday.
Bam! Bam!
So Unity on the Bay, let us wish them all a happy birthday. Let us sing together. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Dale and Dave. Happy birthday to you.
Dale, I'm jumping out of a cake for you later.
All right, everybody. So now let us stand. Let us speak our prayer for protection and affirm it together. And we'll follow that with our peace song. Together, the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.